everyone, I'm Emily Nectasil. Today I'm joined by William Matthews, Senior Product Manager at Checkatrade, a leading platform that has connected homeowners with trusted tradespeople for jobs big and small in the UK since 1998. We're here to dive into their journey of integrating in-app chat with Stream's API. This feature has become a cornerstone of their user experience, enabling seamless communication between customers and tradespeople, from sharing images of job details to real-time problem solving. Checkatrade's chat functionality is transforming how users connect and collaborate on the platform. So today we'll explore the decision-making process that led them to Stream, the challenges they overcame while implementing chat, and the innovative ways they've leveraged this technology to make the tradesperson industry more efficient and user-friendly. So William, thank you so much for being here. Let's start by hearing a little about your role at Checkatrade and your team's vision for this app.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a senior product manager. I've been with Checkatrade for 2.5 years. We've gone through quite a journey, particularly in the last year. We essentially came to the decision we wanted to build a consumer app, and with the first 6 months of the year, I was the key product manager, helping to drive that forward along with our development team, and managed to get it out in the first 6 months of the year, and now out in the market, and users, our customers, are using it. It's exciting.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about how people would communicate before using the app?
Absolutely. So before we had the app, it was essentially off our platform. So people would call one another, they would use WhatsApp, they'd use email, they'd use SMS. The problem we always saw with this was that both trades and consumers, so both sides of our marketplace, would complain about the same thing, and that's they don't hear back from the other side. So we realized that we as Checkatrade weren't doing enough to make sure that we had a method of connecting them. And with the alternative channels, it's much more difficult to get like visibility of what's going on. And so by providing chat as one of the cornerstones of that, it meant we have more visibility. So when things don't go right because people miss messages and stuff like that, we know if that's happened, so then we can help support them.
Awesome. And so were there any metrics related to either tradespeople earning jobs or completing a job that you sought to improve with the chat interface?
Yeah, so I think primarily we were focused around trade usage because there was a pre-existing hypothesis that people used us on a regular basis and stuck in their ways and didn't want to use our chat functionality. So there was a concern. So our key goal, particularly in our beta phase, was to understand, will trades use it? And the answer was yes. Yes, trades do use it, and therefore that's the success. We go like, now we've got that visibility and we can drive that forward.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is a very traditional industry, and it makes the chat interface extra important that it's super frictionless and that it has all the features that people expect. Because obviously these people are using their phones, they're using text messages, WhatsApp, like you mentioned. So it's important that whatever experience you were to build mirrors that, or at least reaches parity. So can you tell me a little bit about the competitive space with Checkatrade? Are other companies similar to yours also using an app?
Yeah, so a few others in the same space are. I would say some of them have a chat functionality, not all of them. I would say some of them use it as sort of less central than we do. We're probably the ones that have taken the biggest step towards making that a key part of the proposition. And yeah, so I think that probably helps us stand out. And realistically, from our consumer side, there's a couple of main benefits, right? One is by having chat in app, you can then get push notifications from it, right? And the second one is that it's all in one place. When we speak to our consumers, the challenge is if they speak to three different tradespeople for the same job, one of them might call back, one of them might use WhatsApp, one of them might use SMS. So we had a lot of consumers that would use notes in their phones to actually keep track of what's happening. And then by having an app and bringing that all together means there's one solid place to deal with that.
I love that. And it really makes Checkatrade like the central hub for anything related to their business or being a freelance tradesperson. So that really increases user retention too, because if they have to come back to the app for those notes that they were previously taking on an app on their phone, it encourages them to stay longer. So I love that. We'll dive into more features a little bit later, but I want to rewind to the evaluation phase and decision making. Can you remember what features were most important to you when you were seeking out an API partner?
Yeah, so I think we evaluated a few different options, and the main reason I think we picked Stream over all others was that you had the UI elements. It meant that it sort of shortcutted us to being able to launch faster. Development time is extremely precious. You want to launch to your customers as soon as possible to get that feedback. If we had to build a whole host of chat components from the ground up, it'd have taken much, much longer. So Stream allowed us to get to that point much, much faster.
Great. And do you mind me asking how many people were working on the integration?
Uh, Great question. So specifically on our, I guess the app as a total, probably 5 or 6 developers. But in terms of, we built stuff outside of just the chat and that had wider team, but specifically around just getting the consumer app, it was probably 5 or 6 people on the trade and consumer side, but then yeah, many more for other features we're adding.
Great. Well, I'm really impressed that you were able to navigate the chat API with a leaner team. And what SDKs are you currently using?
So we've got a native iOS app, we've got a native Android app, and we've got a React Native, and then also our website's in React. So we're using a whole host of different ones.
Great. And did you receive any support from our engineer team, or did you do any live code reviews when you were integrating Stream?
We did, and so the support team were very supportive. I think people were very responsive on the Slack channel that we have. Early on, there were definitely a lot of conversations over how to deal with certain challenges and getting through. So yeah, I think it built quite a good, relationship in helping to support us get up to speed.
Um, were there any moments where you self-served either documentation or other resources that helped you along the integration journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of the time, if you know what I mean, we were using the documentation, which was, speaking to the devs, they found it really clear and straightforward. So, yeah, again, part of the thing that helps with speed.
Great. And were there any challenges that you faced? Was there anything that was a sticking point that you had to either reach out to our support team for?
There definitely were, but it feels like a bit of a haze for me. So I can't remember exact examples. But yeah, the when we did, generally the team dealt with that pretty quickly to understand what we needed, or working around that particular challenge to find alternative solutions.
Great. And can you tell me a little bit about the UI kit experience that you've had with Stream?
Yeah, so I just think it jumped us forward to being able to, launch it faster, right? Everything is available. You can do most of the stuff you need to. I think one of the best features that we're using more and more at the moment is the smart messages. So then you can tailor stuff, and we can pass some really interesting stuff back and forth. We can do things like uh, send via our quoting tool. Trades can send a quote via the chat, and the other side can accept them, and that stuff we're able to configure using some UI components in Stream, which is really good.
Very nice. And since this was a net new solution, basically you were launching the chat app with Stream, you don't have any metrics to compare it to either before, because it's a different type of situation with the means of communication. But what metrics are you using to evaluate the success of Stream Chat?
So I think the two biggest ones are to essentially are people responding to each other. We have, as you say, what's quite interesting is we don't know what it was before, but I think part of that is we're obviously listening to our operations team to understand, is some things that people are saying less, and then we're also using feedback, PMF scores and stuff like that to evaluate. And broadly, it has been positive on the homeowner side, uh, very positive. I think on the trade there's a lot of trades that are saying positive things. There's some that want extra stuff, and I think adopting to a different process takes some time, and we can see over time that we're getting greater and greater adoption on the trade side of using it on a more regular basis. So I think once it starts to embed in, people are using it more.
That's great to hear. I'm glad that everyone's having a positive experience with it. And something that you can kind of compare to the previous way that people were either reaching out to tradespeople or just conducting their business with Checkatrade is the safety of the communication because people were using other platforms that you could not moderate and control necessarily. So, what has Checkatrade's moderation strategy been for chat now that it's such an integral part of the company?
So we there it depends on whether it's images or text. If it's images, we are using Stream's AI moderation tooling, and then we also have the ability for people to manually block, report, etc. within the chat as well to make sure that we can, as you say, for safety purposes, um, if someone does send anything inappropriate, then they can report that quickly, and it's dealt with by our customer support team to deal with.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And then for platform circumvention, I know that's a form of moderation. It's not necessarily making sure people aren't saying things, but sometimes they'll share a phone number or maybe a personal website if they're if a freelance tradesperson and they have their own business separately. So, do you want people to continue using the chat platform? And are you trying to prevent platform circumvention as much as possible?
Really great question. It the answer is yes. We do probably want to get to that point because I think it goes back to that safety and trust, particularly on the consumer side, on the homeowner side. So, but I think we're navigating how we get to that junction. I think because many of the tradespeople that are probably less using chat like to use phone calls, and therefore we need to work out how do we get there. So we sort of have a path potentially to get there, but it's not one we can just do overnight.
Right, I understand that. And let's talk a little bit about the impact on your internal teams. So you mentioned there's a larger team that obviously develops the Check a Trade app, a smaller team dedicated to chat. But what has integrating an API allowed your team to do instead, with their time, instead of having to build chat from scratch, essentially, or if they were working with a partner who wasn't meeting their needs? Is your team able to spend more time developing the core competencies of the Check a Trade app?
Absolutely, I think that's the key thing is we set ourselves a super ambitious deadline of getting our beta out in 3 months and then to general availability after 6 months. And if we had to build the chat from the ground up, we wouldn't have had the ability to build all the other things that we needed to make a minimum viable product to launch, right? The chat wasn't the only feature that we needed, and therefore, um, yeah, shortcutting that allowed us to spend a lot more time doing extra things and also enhance things further, such as mentioned earlier about sending appointments and quotes via the chat functionality that enabled us to do that too.
Perfect. And so, looking forward with your partnership with Stream, are you considering integrating maybe a real time video solution so that people can communicate directly? Or if someone's having a problem, they can take a video, of their dishwasher or something and send it to the tradesperson they aim to work with?
Um, we're exploring that sort of avenue. I think we need to understand the use case, but yeah, definitely the wider set of media, we're trying to understand what's the appetite, what's the usage, does this save time? As you perfectly exactly say, like trades today have to do a site visit. If we are labeled video, does that cut that out? Does that save time needed and therefore save them on those sort of costs? So we are exploring, what more can we do to simplify those processes?
Yeah, I guess that would kind of change the entire structure of the business, just as having a chat interface has and really change things. So it sounds like your user base is giving great feedback and you can rely on them to be honest with you about what they're liking about the app. And so I think looking forward, that could be an awesome solution. So if you look back at your journey kind of as you were starting the process of evaluating, even though it's in a haze and there's so many partners that you probably vetted. What would you say is the biggest impact that has been on either your team or the business or through that user feedback you've noticed since integrating Stream Chat for your marketplace?
I think the biggest impact is having that visibility of that communication, right? To enable the trades and homeowners to actually talk to each other via something we're aware of means we're much more aware of the size of the problem, right? Before it was a problem that we heard only via anecdotal feedback. To have a much better grasp of that means we can really focus on how to solve that problem. Before it was very difficult because we sort of had no visibility. That's the biggest game.
And one question I just realized I forgot to ask you is about the scale of the app. So obviously the company has been around for much longer than the app has, but has everyone pretty much migrated over and has Stream been able to handle that scale?
So for the trade side, the vast majority of our trades use the trade up on a daily basis, and therefore all of those guys are using it. On the consumer side, each new job now creates a chat, and therefore if you're in the app, you use it, and then if on the website too. So yeah, we have all volume is going through and using the chat today, and yeah, we had no concerns in reliability or scalability since doing that.
That's great to hear. And just to sum up your experience with Stream from evaluation, using those docs to self-serve, working with our support engineers and our customer support team, would you recommend Stream Chat and any other products, moderation or, if you were looking at video down the line, based on your experience, would you recommend it to other marketplaces?
I would indeed. I think, yeah, Stream has solved the problem we needed it to solve, and yeah, so I would definitely recommend for that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Will, for sharing your experience. And we so appreciate your partnership and Checkatrade as a customer. So thank you so much for your time.
No worries at all. Lovely to spend the time chatting.
Thank you.